As the frontier hovered just outside sensor range, Karen continued monitoring the Varnock transmissions. Fragments of alien speech crackled through her headset, harsh and guttural. Though she couldn't understand the language, the tone was unmistakable, aggressive, confident, and relentless. "They're coordinating attacks," Karen explained. "Focusing on key infrastructure first. Power plants, communication hubs, military installations. Standard invasion tactics." Ryan rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "They're methodical. That works in our favor. If we disrupt their chain of command, we might buy the colonists some time." "But how?" Lisa asked. "We're outnumbered 10-1. We use our advantage," Ryan replied firmly. "Technology. Stealth. Surprise. Those brutes rely on brute force. We'll hit them where it hurts most, their confidence." For the next hour, the crew gathered intelligence, piecing together a clearer picture of the enemy's movements. Slowly, a plan began to form in Ryan's mind. It was risky, perhaps even reckless. But with the fate of an entire colony hanging in the balance, there was no room for hesitation. Finally, Ryan turned to face his team. "Listen up. Here's what we're going to do." His voice trailed off as he outlined the strategy, his words steady and resolute. The crew listened intently, nodding in understanding. Fear still lingered in their hearts, but it was tempered by resolve. They were humans, explorers, protectors of peace. And they would not let tyranny go unchecked, not while they still drew breath. Outside the ship, the battle raged on. Explosions illuminated the darkness, casting fleeting shadows across the faces of those aboard the frontier. Yet inside, a spark of hope burned brightly. For the first time in hours, the crew believed they might actually have a chance. And so, with courage in their hearts and fire in their veins, they prepared to face the storm head-on. The stars stretched endlessly across the blackness of space, their light twinkling faintly like distant lanterns. The SS Frontier, a sleek human warship, drifted silently through the void. Its hull shimmered under the dim glow of a nearby star, reflecting the cold beauty of the cosmos. Inside, the crew moved with practiced efficiency, each person focused on their role. This was not just another ship, it was humanity's frontier, pushing outward into uncharted regions of the galaxy. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back as he stared out of the large viewport. His sharp blue eyes scanned the emptiness ahead, searching for any sign of trouble. At 42 years old, Ryan had spent most of his life in space, commanding vessels like this one. He knew every inch of the frontier and trusted its crew implicitly. But today, something felt different. A strange tension hung in the air, almost as if the universe itself were holding its breath. Beside him, Commander Lisa Carter leaned over a console, reviewing data from the ship's sensors. She was younger than Ryan by a few years but equally experienced. Her calm demeanor often balanced out Ryan's more intense approach. "We're approaching the edge of the sector," she said, glancing up at him. "No unusual readings so far." Ryan nodded slowly. "Good. Let's keep it that way." The mission had started simply enough, a routine patrol near the outer rim of explored space. Humanity's reach had grown significantly over the past century, thanks to advancements in faster-than-light travel. New colonies were being established, trade routes expanded, and alliances forged with alien species. But the farther humans ventured, the more they encountered unknown dangers. The vastness of space hid countless mysteries, some beautiful, others deadly. Just as Lisa turned back to her console, a sudden alert flashed across the main screen. The soft hum of the ship's systems was interrupted by a high-pitched beep. Alex Harper, the navigator, looked up from his station. "Captain, we're picking up a distress signal," he said quickly. His voice carried a hint of urgency. Ryan stepped closer. "Where is it coming from?" Alex tapped a few keys, and a map of the local star system appeared on the screen. A blinking red dot marked the source of the signal. "It's coming from a planet in the next system over," he replied. "Looks like a small colony world. They're under attack." Lisa frowned. "Under attack? By whom?" "That's unclear," Alex admitted. "But based on the frequency and modulation of the signal, It doesn't match any known human or allied communications. Ryan's jaw tightened. Put us on course, maximum speed. And prepare the crew for potential combat. As the Frontier adjusted its trajectory, the mood on the bridge shifted. The relaxed atmosphere gave way to quiet determination. Each crew member checked their equipment, reviewed protocols, and mentally prepared for whatever lay ahead. No one spoke much, but the shared sense of purpose was palpable. Karen White, the communications specialist, sat at her station, headphones resting lightly on her ears. She listened intently to the garbled transmission, trying to decipher fragments of information. "They're calling for help," she reported after a moment. Repeatedly saying Varnock and retreat. "I think they're being attacked by the Varnock Dominion." At the mention of the name, several heads turned. The Varnock Dominion was infamous throughout the galaxy. Known for their aggressive expansion and brutal tactics, they had subjugated countless weaker civilizations. Their ships were crude yet effective, relying on sheer numbers and overwhelming firepower to crush resistance. Encountering them meant trouble and possibly bloodshed. Ryan crossed his arms. "How many ships are we talking about?" Karen hesitated, scrolling through the data. "Hard to say exactly, but initial scans suggest dozens. Maybe even hundreds." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. The SS Frontier was powerful, equipped with state-of-the-art weapons and defenses. But it was only one ship. Facing an entire fleet would be suicide unless they played their cards right. "Let's get a better look," Ryan finally said. "Alex, take us around the edge of the system. Keep us cloaked until we can assess the situation." "Yes, sir," Alex responded, his fingers flying over the controls. Minutes later, the Frontier emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the target system. Through the viewport, the crew saw a sight that made their blood run cold. Dozens of jagged, menacing ships surrounded the colony planet below. Their dark metallic surfaces reflected no light, giving them an eerie, shadowy appearance. Energy turrets bristled along their hulls, and plasma trails streaked across the sky as they fired relentlessly at the surface. "Oh my God," Lisa whispered, her voice barely audible. "They're tearing that planet apart." Ryan said nothing, his gaze fixed on the devastation unfolding before them. Fires raged across the planet's surface, visible even from orbit. Clouds of smoke obscured entire continents, while flashes of explosions lit up the night side like artificial lightning. The colony's defenses were clearly overwhelmed, reduced to scattered remnants struggling to hold back the tide. "What do we do, Captain?" Alex asked, breaking the silence. Ryan took a deep breath. "We wait. For now, we observe. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we act." Commander Lisa nodded in agreement. "If we rush in blindly, we'll get ourselves killed and the colony won't stand a chance." The SS Frontier remained cloaked, its presence undetected by the Varnock fleet. The crew worked quietly but urgently, each person focused on their task. Tension still filled the air, but it was a controlled tension, the kind that sharpened minds and steadied hands. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood at the center of the bridge, his eyes scanning the screens and displays before him. He had always believed in leading by example, and now, more than ever, he needed to stay calm for his crew. Commander Lisa Carter moved to his side, her expression thoughtful. "We've analyzed their formations," she said, pointing to a holographic display floating above the central console. "They're clustered around key points on the planet's surface: cities, power grids, communication towers. They're trying to cripple the colony completely." Ryan nodded slowly, studying the hologram. The Varnock ships were arranged in tight clusters, like predators circling their prey. Their movements were coordinated but not particularly sophisticated. It was clear they relied on overwhelming numbers rather than clever tactics. Still, the sheer size of their fleet made them a formidable opponent. "Do we have any idea how many colonists are left alive down there?" Ryan asked, glancing toward Karen White, the communications specialist. Karen adjusted her headset, listening intently to faint signals coming from the planet below. "Hard to say exactly," she admitted. "But I'm picking up scattered broadcasts, emergency channels, distress calls. Some areas are still holding out, especially near the northern hemisphere." If we can give them a chance to regroup, they might be able to mount some resistance. Ryan frowned. Resistance won't matter if the Varnarks destroy everything first. We need to act fast. Lisa leaned closer to the hologram, her brow furrowed in concentration. Their command structure seems centralized. Most of the orders are coming from one massive ship near the middle of the formation, their flagship, probably. If we can disrupt that. Ryan finished her thought. Then the rest of the fleet might fall into disarray. Alex Harper, the navigator, spoke up from his station. Sir, even if we target the flagship, we'll still be outnumbered. They'll swarm us the moment they realize we're here. That's why we don't let them realize we're here, at least not right away, Ryan replied firmly. Turning back to Lisa, he added, what about their technology? Any weaknesses? Lisa tapped a few commands into her console, pulling up detailed scans of the Varnock ships. Their energy signatures are inefficient, she said after a moment. Their weapons use outdated plasma technology, and their shields are basic compared to ours. They rely on brute force because they lack precision. Ryan's lips curved into a slight smile. So they're all bark and no bite. Not quite, Lisa cautioned. They've got plenty of bite, it's just messy and unrefined. But you're right, their tech is nowhere near as advanced as ours. That gives us an edge. Daniel Brooks, the ship's lead engineer, chimed in from the engineering station. Our railguns could tear through their hulls like paper, he said confidently. And our shield systems are light years ahead of theirs. If we play this smart, we can hold our own. Ryan turned to face his team. Good. Then here's what we're going to do. He gestured toward the hologram. We'll use hit-and-run tactics. Quick strikes against their weaker ships, then retreat before they can respond. Every time they lose a vessel, it'll chip away at their confidence. Meanwhile, we'll keep probing for weaknesses in their command structure. The crew nodded, understanding the plan. It was risky, but it played to their strengths: speed, stealth, and superior technology. Still, there was one question lingering in everyone's mind. What happens when they figure out who we are? Alex asked cautiously. Ryan hesitated for a moment. That's the gamble we'll have to take. If we can hit them hard enough, fast enough, they might decide it's not worth the fight. The Varnarks aren't known for their bravery, they're bullies. And bullies back down when someone stands up to them. With the strategy set, the crew sprang into action. Daniel worked with Lieutenant Sarah Lewis, the tactical officer, to recalibrate the Frontiers weapons systems. Together, they fine-tuned the targeting algorithms to maximize efficiency against the Varnock ship's armor. Meanwhile, Alex plotted a series of attack vectors, ensuring the Frontier could strike without exposing itself to counterattacks. Karen continued monitoring the Varnock transmissions, piecing together fragments of information. She noticed something odd, a pattern of hesitation in their orders. Several smaller ships had begun drifting away from the main formation, as if unsure whether to press forward or retreat entirely. Captain, Karen called out, removing her headset. I think some of their commanders are arguing. There's confusion in their ranks. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Confusion? About what? They've never encountered humans before, Karen explained. Some of them seem scared. Others are pushing to keep attacking, but there's definitely disagreement. Lisa exchanged a glance with Ryan. Sounds like we've already shaken their confidence just by being here. Ryan allowed himself a small smile. Perfect. Let's make sure they know exactly what they're dealing with. As preparations continued, the SS Frontier edged closer to the Varnock fleet. Its cloaking device masked both its visual presence and energy signature, rendering it invisible to enemy sensors. From their vantage point, the crew could see the chaos unfolding below. Fires raged across the planet's surface, and debris from destroyed structures floated aimlessly in orbit. Yet amidst the destruction, faint signs of resistance remained, colonial fighters darting between larger ships, launching desperate attacks before disappearing into the void. Ryan watched the scene unfold with a mixture of anger and determination. "Those people are counting on us," he said quietly. "We can't let them down." The moment of truth arrived sooner than expected. One of the Varnock ships strayed too far from the main formation, venturing dangerously close to the Frontier's position. It was a smaller vessel, likely a scout or supply craft, but its destruction would send a clear message. "Target locked," Sarah announced, her voice steady. "Railgun ready." Ryan gave the order. "Fire." A single shot streaked through space, silent and deadly. The railgun projectile tore through the Varnock ship's hull with devastating precision, splitting it in two. Within seconds, the wreckage erupted into flames, consumed by its own fuel reserves. The reaction among the Varnock fleet was immediate. Alarms blared across their ships, and frantic orders echoed through the comms. Several vessels broke off from their positions, scrambling to locate the source of the attack. But the Frontier remained hidden, its cloaking device holding firm. Karen listened intently to the growing panic in the Varnock transmissions. "They're searching for us," she reported. "But they have no idea where we are." Ryan crossed his arms. "Let them look. In the meantime, let's hit them again." Over the next hour, the Frontier struck repeatedly, targeting isolated ships and retreating before reinforcements could arrive. Each attack sowed further confusion among the Varnocks, who struggled to adapt to an enemy they couldn't see. Their once coordinated fleet began to fracture, with ships breaking formation and firing blindly into empty space. On the bridge, the crew felt a cautious sense of optimism. They were making progress, chipping away at the Varnock's dominance one strike at a time. But Ryan knew better than to celebrate prematurely. The real test was yet to come. As the Frontier prepared for another pass, Lisa pointed to the hologram. "Look. Their flagship is moving." Sure enough, the massive Varnock command ship had shifted its positioning itself closer to the heart of the fleet. Smaller vessels clustered around it protectively, forming a dense wall of defenses. "They're consolidating their forces," Ryan observed. "Smart move. But predictable," Lisa added. "They're afraid of losing control." Ryan nodded. "Which means we need to push harder. Keep them guessing." He turned to Alex. "Plot a course behind their formation. We'll circle around and hit them from the rear." "Yes, sir," Alex replied, already inputting the coordinates. The Frontier slipped silently through the void, its engines running at minimal output to avoid detection. As it maneuvered into position, the crew braced for the next phase of the battle. This time, their target was bigger and riskier. When the ship emerged from the shadows, it unleashed a barrage of railgun fire directly at the Varnock flagship. The projectiles slammed into the protective cluster of smaller ships, obliterating several in quick succession. Chaos erupted among the enemy fleet as they scrambled to respond. For the first time, the Varnocks realized they weren't facing a random attacker, they were dealing with a highly advanced adversary. Panic rippled through their ranks, and their once aggressive posture began to falter. Ryan watched the scene unfold with quiet satisfaction. "That's it," he murmured. "Start doubting yourselves." On the planet below, the colonists noticed the change in momentum. With fewer Varnock ships bombarding them, they seized the opportunity to fight back. Ground-based defenses came online, launching missiles and energy beams at the invaders. For the first time since the invasion began, hope flickered to life. Back aboard the Frontier, the crew exchanged determined glances. They had struck a blow not just against the Varnocks, but against fear itself. Humanity wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, proving that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, courage and ingenuity could shine brightest. And somewhere deep within the Varnock fleet, doubt took root.
The SS Frontier had proven itself a ghost in the night, striking swiftly and vanishing before the Varnock fleet could react. Each attack left the enemy more confused and disorganized, their once coordinated assault crumbling into chaos. But Captain Ryan Mitchell knew they were far from safe. The Varnock flagship still loomed large at the center of the fleet, its defenses bolstered by smaller ships forming a protective barrier. Breaking through that wall would be no easy task. On the bridge, the crew worked tirelessly to maintain their advantage. Alex Harper adjusted the ship's course, keeping the Frontier out of reach while plotting their next move. Karen White monitored the Varnock transmissions, her headphones picking up fragments of increasingly frantic orders. It was clear the invaders were losing confidence, but Ryan understood that desperation often made enemies more dangerous. "They are starting to panic," Karen reported, removing her headset for a moment. "Some of their commanders are suggesting retreat, but others want to press forward. There's a lot of arguing." Ryan nodded thoughtfully. "Panic can work in our favor, but only if we keep the pressure on. If they regroup, we'll lose the upper hand." Lisa Carter leaned over the tactical display, studying the hologram of the Varnock formation. "Their flagship is a key," she said firmly. "If we can disable it, the rest of the fleet will collapse." Daniel Brooks chimed in from his station. "Agreed, but hitting it won't be easy. Those smaller ships around it are packed tight. One wrong move, and we'll get swarmed." Ryan crossed his arms, considering their options. "We need something unexpected, something they won't see coming." He turned to Lieutenant Sarah Lewis, who was overseeing the weapon systems. "What about decoys? Can we create false targets?" Sarah tapped a few commands into her console. "We can deploy holographic projections," she replied. "They won't last long under heavy fire, but they might buy us enough time to slip past their defenses." "Do it," Ryan ordered, "and prep the railguns. We'll hit them hard and fast." As the crew prepared the decoy strategy, the tension on the bridge grew palpable. Everyone knew the stakes. One mistake could mean disaster. Yet there was also a quiet determination in their eyes. They had come too far to give up now. Minutes later, the Frontier positioned itself behind an asteroid field, using the natural cover to mask its movements. From there, Sarah launched the holographic projectors, creating phantom images of human warships emerging from hyperspace. To the Varnock sensors, it appeared as though reinforcements had arrived, a small fleet of sleek, advanced vessels closing in on their position. The effect was immediate. The Varnock fleet erupted into chaos. Smaller ships broke formation, turning wildly to face the new threat. Orders crackled across their comms, harsh and disjointed, as confusion spread like wildfire. Even the flagship hesitated, its massive engines powering down slightly as its commanders tried to assess the situation. Karen listened closely to the transmissions, a faint smile playing on her lips. "They think we brought a whole fleet," she said, glancing at Ryan. "Some of them are already calling for a full retreat." Ryan allowed himself a brief grin. "Good. Let's make sure they don't change their minds." With the Varnocks distracted, the SS Fortress slipped through the gaps in their formation, moving closer to the flagship. Its cloaking device remained active, rendering it invisible to enemy sensors. As it approached, Daniel and Sarah worked together to recalibrate the railgun systems, ensuring maximum impact with minimal exposure. "Target locked," Sarah announced, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "Ready to fire on your mark." Ryan took a deep breath, his eyes fixed on the hologram. "Fire." The railgun roared to life, launching a volley of projectiles directly at the flagship. The first shot struck true, piercing the outer layer of its hull and causing secondary explosions inside. The second and third shots followed in quick succession, tearing through the protective cluster of smaller ships and leaving gaping holes in the flagship's defenses. The Varnocks reacted with predictable fury, unleashing a barrage of plasma fire in all directions. But without a clear target, their attacks were scattered and ineffective. The Frontier remained untouched, its stealth technology holding firm. On the bridge, the crew exchanged triumphant glances. They had dealt a critical blow to the enemy's command structure, and it showed. The flagship's movements became erratic, its engine sputtering as internal damage spread. Several smaller ships abandoned their positions entirely, fleeing into hyperspace rather than risk further destruction. But Ryan wasn't ready to celebrate yet. "Stay focused," he reminded the crew. "They are wounded, not defeated." Lisa nodded in agreement. "We've got their attention. Now we need to finish this." Karen continued monitoring the Varnock transmissions, her expression growing increasingly hopeful. "Their leaders are panicking," she reported. "Orders are conflicting. Some ships are trying to regroup, but others are breaking away completely." Alex adjusted the navigation controls, bringing the Frontier into position for another strike. "What's the plan? Captain, do we go after the flagship again?" Ryan shook his head. "No. We let them think twice about staying here. Deploy the EMP burst. Sarah raised an eyebrow. An electromagnetic pulse? That'll fry their systems, but it's risky. If they realize we're close enough to use it, they'll swarm us. That's why timing is everything, Ryan replied. Wait until they are fully committed to retreating. Then hit them with everything we've got. The crew sprang into action, preparing the EMP device. It was a powerful weapon, capable of disabling entire fleets within seconds. But it required precise positioning and perfect timing. Any error could leave the frontier vulnerable to counterattack. As the minutes ticked by, the Varnock fleet continued to unravel. More ships broke formation, their captains unwilling to risk annihilation. The flagship, now heavily damaged, began limping toward the edge of the system, clearly attempting to escape. Its remaining escorts formed a loose perimeter around it, firing blindly into space in hopes of deterring pursuit. Finally, Ryan gave the order. Deploy the EMP. Let's send them running. Sarah activated the device, releasing a pulse of electromagnetic energy that rippled outward like a shockwave. Within moments, the Varnock ship systems went dark. Engines stuttered, weapons powered down, and communications fell silent. For several tense seconds, the entire fleet drifted helplessly, adrift in the void. On the bridge, the crew watched in stunned silence as the enemy's momentum evaporated. Without power, the Varnocks were sitting ducks, easy target for any follow-up attack. But Ryan held back. That's enough, he said quietly. Let them go. Lisa looked at him in surprise. Are you sure? We could finish them off right now. Ryan shook his head. No, destroying them isn't the goal. Making them afraid of us, that's what matters. If they run now, they'll tell everyone else what happened here. And maybe next time, they'll think twice before attacking anyone. The decision resonated with the crew. They had achieved something remarkable, not just a military victory, but a psychological one. By showing restraint, they reinforced the idea that humanity was not to be trifled with. As the EMP effects wore off, the surviving Vornak ships scrambled to jump into hyperspace. One by one, they disappeared, leaving behind only debris and smoke. The flagship was among the last to flee, its battered hull barely holding together as it vanished into the stars. When the final ship was gone, the bridge erupted into cheers. The crew embraced each other, relief and pride washing over them. They had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious, not through brute force, but through intelligence, teamwork, and courage. Ryan stepped forward, raising a hand to quiet the celebration. Well done, everyone, he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. You proved today that humanity doesn't back down, not when lives are on the line. Lisa smiled, her eyes shining with emotion, and we showed them exactly what happens when they mess with us. Outside the ship, the colony planet below slowly came back to life. Fire still burned in some areas, but emergency teams were already working to contain the damage. Survivors emerged from shelters, gazing upward at the stars where their mysterious saviors had fought so fiercely on their behalf. Back aboard the SS Frontier, the crew took a moment to reflect on what they had accomplished. They were explorers, protectors, and warriors, all rolled into one. And though their journey was far from over, they knew they had taken a vital step forward in securing humanity's place among the stars. Far away, in the depths of space, the remnants of the Varnock fleet fled with tales of the human warship that had driven them back. Stories of its speed, its stealth, and its devastating firepower would spread throughout the galaxy, whispered in fear and awe alike. And somewhere, perhaps, leaders of other empires paused to reconsider their plans, for humanity had proven itself a force to be reckoned with. The battle was over, but the work had only just begun. The SS Frontier hovered silently in orbit around a battered colony planet, its crew shifting from combat mode to recovery operations. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the devastated surface below. Fire still burned in some areas, casting an eerie orange glow against the darkened landscape. Yet amidst the destruction, there were signs of resilience, emergency teams working tirelessly to put out flames, medical units tending to the wounded, and survivors emerging cautiously from shelters. Ryan turned to Commander Lisa Carter, who was reviewing reports from the ground. "What's the situation down there?" he asked. Lisa glanced up from her console. It's bad, but not as bad as it could have been, she replied. Most of the major cities are damaged, but a few manage to hold out. The colonists are organizing relief efforts, but they'll need help rebuilding their infrastructure. Ryan nodded thoughtfully. We'll do what we can. Prep the cargo bay for supply drops, and get me a list of their most urgent needs. Yes, sir, Lisa said, already tapping commands into her console. As the crew worked to assist the colony, the sense of relief aboard the Frontier was palpable. They had faced an overwhelming enemy and emerged victorious, not through brute force, but through strategy, ingenuity, and teamwork. Yet even as they celebrated their success, there was no room for complacency. The Varnock Dominion was still out there, licking its wounds and plotting its next move. Karen White sat at her communication station, monitoring signals from across the sector. Her headphones crackled faintly as she sifted through fragments of alien chatter. So far, there was no sign of reinforcements heading toward the colony. But that didn't mean the threat was gone. It meant they had time to prepare. Captain, Karen called out after a moment, I'm picking up transmissions from nearby systems. Word about the battle is spreading fast. Ryan raised an eyebrow. What are they saying? Karen hesitated, scrolling through the data. Some species seem impressed by what we did. Others, well, they're scared. A lot of them are talking about how humanity just drove off one of the most aggressive empires in the galaxy. Ryan exchanged a glance with Lisa. Good. Let them talk. Fear is a weapon too, if used wisely. Across the galaxy, news of the encounter traveled quickly. In distant star systems, leaders of various civilizations gathered to discuss the implications. The Varnock Dominion had long been a thorn in the side of weaker species, expanding its territory through sheer brutality. Now, for the first time, someone had stood up to them, and won. On a lush jungle planet deep within Varnock space, a council of high-ranking commanders convened in secret. Their flagship had returned heavily damaged, its captain barely able to speak of the humiliation they had suffered. Reports described a sleek, advanced warship unlike anything they had ever encountered, a vessel capable of striking without warning and vanishing like a ghost. Humanity, one commander growled, slamming his fist on the table. Who are these creatures? How dare they interfere in our affairs? Another commander leaned forward, his voice calm but tinged with unease. They are not like other species. Their technology is superior to ours. Their tactics unpredictable. We underestimated them and paid the price. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. For centuries, the Varnocks had relied on fear to maintain control. But now, their reputation was shaken. If word got out that a single human ship could defeat an entire fleet, other civilizations might begin resisting them. We must adapt, the second commander continued. Study their methods. Learn their weaknesses. Only then can we counter them effectively. Back aboard the SS Frontier, the crew remained unaware of the ripple effect their actions had caused. Their focus was on the present, helping the colony recover and ensuring it wouldn't fall victim to another attack. Supplies were loaded onto transport shuttles and sent down to the surface, where grateful colonists greeted them with tears of gratitude. Among the supplies were prefabricated shelters, food rations, medical kits, and tools for repairing damaged structures. Daniel Brooks worked alongside Lieutenant Sarah Lewis to ensure everything functioned properly before deployment. These people have been through hell, Daniel muttered as he double-checked a shipment of power generators. The least we can do is give them a fighting chance. Sarah nodded grimly. Yeah, but let's hope this doesn't happen again anytime soon. Meanwhile, Alex Harper plotted a defensive perimeter around the planet, positioning the Frontier to intercept any potential threats. Though the immediate danger had passed, he knew better than to assume the Varnocks wouldn't return. His fingers flew over the controls as he coordinated sensor sweeps and drone patrols, keeping a constant watch on the surrounding space. On the bridge, Ryan addressed the senior staff during a brief meeting. We've done good work here, he began, his tone measured but proud. But we can't stay forever. Our mission is to protect humanity's interests, not just here, but everywhere. Once the colony is stable enough to defend itself, we need to move on. Lisa nodded in agreement. Understood. I'll coordinate with the colonial leadership to establish a temporary defense grid using their resources. It won't be perfect, but it'll buy them time if the Varnox come back. Karen added, I'll keep monitoring transmissions. If anything changes, we'll know immediately. Ryan smiled faintly. Good. Let's make sure they remember us, not as conquerors, but as allies. As the days passed, the colony slowly began to heal. Emergency shelters became makeshift homes, and repair crews worked around the clock to restore power and communication networks. The colonists, though weary, showed remarkable resilience. Many expressed their gratitude to the crew of the Frontier, sharing stories of how the sudden appearance of a human warship had given them hope when all seemed lost. One evening, Ryan and Lisa joined a small gathering of colonial leaders in a partially repaired government building. The air was thick with smoke from burning debris outside, but inside, candles flickered warmly, casting soft light across the room. A middle-aged man named Peter, the colony's governor, stood to address them. On behalf of everyone here, I want to thank you, he said, his voice trembling with emotion. You saved us, not just from the Varnox, but from despair. We'll never forget what you've done. Ryan shook his hand firmly. You're stronger than you think, he replied. This colony will rise again, and when it does, it'll be because of your courage, not ours. Peter smiled weakly. Still, knowing that Earth stands with us means more than you can imagine. The conversation shifted to plans for the future. Lisa outlined strategies for fortifying the colony's defenses, while Ryan emphasized the importance of unity and cooperation. By the end of the meeting, the atmosphere felt lighter, filled with cautious optimism. Later that night, Ryan stood alone on the observation deck of the Frontier, staring out at the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly before him, vast and unknowable. He thought about the events of the past few days, the battles fought, the lives saved, and the lessons learned. Humanity had taken a bold step forward, proving that it belonged among the stars. But Ryan also knew the road ahead would be difficult. The Varnock Dominion wasn't defeated. It was merely delayed. Other challenges awaited, both known and unknown. Yet as he gazed at the endless expanse of space, he felt a quiet confidence. Humanity had faced adversity before and emerged stronger each time. Behind him, the door slid open, and Lisa joined him. She stood silently for a moment, her eyes following his gaze. Thinking about what comes next? She asked softly. Ryan nodded. Yeah. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning. There are billions of people counting on us to protect them, to show them that Earth is ready to stand tall, no matter what. Lisa smiled. And we will. Together. Together. They watched the stars shimmer in the darkness, their light a reminder of the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. The SS Frontier had proven itself a beacon of hope, a symbol of humanity's determination to explore, survive, and thrive. And though the journey was far from over, they were ready to face whatever came next. Far away, in the heart of Varnock space, preparations were already underway. Ships were being repaired, weapons upgraded, and strategies revised. The Empire refused to accept defeat. Not yet. Someday, they vowed, they would reclaim their honor and crush the humans who had humiliated them. But for now, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see who would make the next move. The SS Frontier prepared to leave the colony behind, its mission accomplished but far from complete. The crew worked tirelessly to ensure everything was in place for their departure, knowing that their next destination could be anywhere in the vast expanse of space. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge, his hands resting lightly on the railing as he watched the final preparations unfold. The weight of responsibility still rested heavily on his shoulders, but there was a quiet pride in his eyes, a recognition of what they had achieved. Commander Lisa Carter approached him, holding a datapad filled with reports from the colony's leadership. The defense grid is operational, she said, her tone steady but tinged with satisfaction. It's not perfect, but it'll hold until reinforcements arrive. Ryan nodded slowly. Good work. That should give them enough time to rebuild properly. He paused, glancing at the main viewport where the planet hung suspended in the blackness of space. Do you think they'll make it? Lisa followed his gaze, her expression thoughtful. They're survivors, she replied after a moment. Humans always find a way. I think they'll be okay. Karen White, seated at her communication station, chimed in without turning around. "I've sent out a request for additional support ships," she said. "If all goes well, they'll reach the colony within a few weeks." Ryan gave her an approving nod. That's one less thing to worry about. As the crew finished their tasks, the mood aboard the ship shifted subtly. The adrenaline-fueled intensity of battle had faded, replaced by a sense of quiet reflection. They had faced an enemy far greater than themselves and emerged victorious, not through sheer strength, but through ingenuity, teamwork, and courage. Each member of the crew understood that this victory wasn't just for the colonists below, it was for humanity itself. Alex Harper adjusted the navigation controls, plotting a course back toward explored space. "Ready when you are, Captain," he announced, his voice calm and professional. Ryan turned to face him. "Set coordinates for Earth Command," he ordered, "but keep us cloaked until we're clear of this sector. No need to take chances." "Yes, sir," Alex replied, already inputting commands. The engines hummed softly as the Frontier began its journey home. Outside the ship, the stars blurred into streaks of light as it entered hyperspace. For the first time in days, the crew allowed themselves to relax, if only briefly. Conversations broke out across the bridge, laughter mingling with shared stories of the battle. Even Daniel Brooks, usually reserved and focused on his work, joined in, recounting how he and Sarah Lewis had fine-tuned the railguns under pressure. In the observation lounge, Ryan sat alone, staring out at the endless stream of hyperspace colors. His thoughts drifted back to the events of the past few days, the chaos, the fear, the triumph. Humanity had proven itself capable of standing toe-to-toe with one of the galaxy's most fearsome empires. But Ryan knew better than to believe this would be the end of the conflict. The Varnock Dominion would not forget or forgive easily. This skirmish was merely the opening chapter in a much larger story. Lisa entered the lounge quietly, taking a seat beside him. She didn't speak immediately, content to share the silence as the colors danced across their faces. Finally, she broke the quiet. "What happens now?" she asked softly. Ryan sighed, leaning back in his chair. "We report back to Earth Command, debrief them on everything that happened here. Then," he trailed off, shaking his head slightly, "then we wait. The Varnocks won't let this go unanswered. They'll come back, stronger, angrier, more determined. We need to be ready." Lisa frowned, her brow furrowing in concern. "Do you think we can stop them again? If they bring everything they have, I mean..." Ryan hesitated before answering. "I don't know," he admitted. "But stopping them isn't the goal. It's showing them, and everyone else, that humanity won't back down, that we're willing to fight for what's right, even against impossible odds." Lisa nodded slowly, understanding his meaning. A message, then, to the galaxy. "Exactly," Ryan said, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Fear works both ways. Let them wonder what else we're capable of." Far away, in the heart of Varnock space, the Empire seethed with anger and humiliation. Leaders convened in secret chambers, their voices low but brimming with rage. The defeat at the hands of a single human warship had shaken their confidence, forcing them to rethink their strategies. Reports described advanced technology, unpredictable tactics, and a level of coordination unlike anything they had encountered before. "We cannot allow this insult to stand," one commander growled, slamming his fist on the table. "If word spreads that we were driven back by humans, our reputation will crumble." Another leader spoke up, his tone measured but firm. "Reputation is meaningless without power. We must adapt, study their methods, learn their weaknesses. Only then can we counter them effectively." Plans were drawn up, blueprints for new ships, upgraded weapon systems, and enhanced training programs for their crews. Spies were dispatched to gather intelligence on human colonies, while diplomats sought alliances with other species wary of Earth's growing influence. The Varnock Dominion was beaten, but not broken. Its leaders vowed to return stronger, more ruthless, and more determined than ever. Back aboard the SS Frontier, Karen continued monitoring transmissions from across the sector. News of their encounter with the Varnocks had spread rapidly, sparking reactions ranging from admiration to fear. Some civilizations praised humanity's bravery, while others expressed unease at the prospect of a new power rising in the galaxy. Karen relayed these updates to Ryan, who listened intently, piecing together the broader implications. "It seems we've made quite the impression," Karen said dryly, scrolling through the latest reports. "Several species are reaching out, eager to establish trade agreements or defensive pacts." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "And what about the Varnox? Any sign of movement?" "Nothing concrete yet," Karen replied. "But they are regrouping, rebuilding. Whatever comes next, it'll be bigger." Ryan nodded grimly. "Let them build. Let them plan. When they come, we'll be waiting." Days passed as the Frontier traveled deeper into familiar territory. The closer they got to Earth, the more the crew felt the weight of their achievement. They weren't just returning home. They were bringing proof that humanity belonged among the stars. Their actions had inspired hope, forged alliances, and struck fear into the hearts of those who sought to dominate others. When the ship finally dropped out of hyperspace near Earth Command, the sight of the orbital station filled the crew with a mix of relief and pride. Its massive ring spun lazily against the backdrop of the blue-green planet below, a symbol of humanity's progress and potential. As the Frontier docked, Ryan gathered his senior staff for one last briefing before disembarking. "You've all done incredible work," he said, looking each of them in the eye. "Not just in this mission, but every day. What we achieved here isn't just about winning a battle. It's about showing the galaxy who we are and who we want to be." Lisa smiled, her expression warm but resolute. "We've set a standard. Now it's up to us and the rest of humanity to live up to it." With that, the crew disembarked, stepping onto the station and into the arms of cheering colleagues and officials. Word of their victory had reached Earth Command ahead of them, and celebrations erupted throughout the facility. Medals were awarded, speeches given, and plans made for the future. Yet amid the festivities, Ryan remained grounded, his focus unwavering. Later that evening, he stood alone on the observation deck of the station, gazing down at Earth. The planet shimmered beneath him, its oceans reflecting sunlight and its continents teeming with life. It was beautiful, fragile, and yet incredibly resilient, a testament to the spirit of those who called it home. Lisa joined him once more, standing silently at his side. "What are you thinking?" she asked gently. Ryan took a deep breath, his voice soft but steady. "I'm thinking about tomorrow, about the challenges ahead, about the people counting on us to protect them, to guide them, to lead them." Lisa nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "And do you think we're ready?" Ryan smiled faintly, a spark of determination lighting his eyes. "We have to be, because if we aren't, no one else will be." Together, they watched as Earth rotated slowly beneath them, its beauty a reminder of why they fought. Humanity had taken its first steps into the stars, proving that it could thrive among the cosmos. The road ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but Ryan knew one thing for certain. Humanity wouldn't walk it alone. For the galaxy had seen its first look at a human warship, and it had changed everything.